All right, let's talk about a vegetable that, let's be honest, has a bit of a reputation problem. Kale. You know the story. You buy a big, beautiful bunch with the best of intentions, and a week later, it's just sad and wilted in the back of your fridge. If that sounds familiar, you're in the right place. We're going to figure this out and find the perfect kale for you.
I mean, let's just start here, because this quote says it all, right? I used to think kale was punishment food. That tough, bitter green stuff you force yourself to eat because you're supposed to. We have all been there.
But here's the secret, the big reveal. The problem isn't kale. It's that you've probably been growing or buying the wrong kale. Yeah, that's right. The key to actually loving kale is picking the right variety for where you live and, maybe even more important, for how you actually want to eat it.
So, here's our game plan. First, we're going to tackle that punishment food problem. Then, you'll meet the big 5 types of kale. After that, we'll get into how to choose one based on your climate and then based on what you're cooking. And finally, we'll put it all together into your own personal kale blueprint. Sound good?
So, that wilted kale in the crisper drawer? That's not a personal failure, okay? It's just a mismatch. We're going to fix that by finding a kale you are genuinely excited about.
And to do that, we need to meet the main characters in this story. Think of these as the Big 5, the foundational varieties every home gardener really ought to know. And here they are. You've got your classic super frilly curly kale. Then there's Lacinato with those bumpy, almost reptilian-looking leaves. Red Russian is just beautiful with those purple-red stems. Siberian has these big, smooth leaves. And then you've got a tough hybrid like Winterbor, which is just built to last. This brings us to the classic showdown, curly versus Lacinato, or dinosaur kale. And the difference is way more than just looks. It is all about texture. Curly kale, see, it gets really soft, almost velvety when you cook it down in a soup. Lacinato, on the other hand, holds its structure. It keeps a satisfying bite, which makes it absolutely perfect for things like kale chips.
So to find your perfect match, it really just boils down to these 2 questions. That's it. First, what's your climate like? Are you dealing with hot springs or are you looking at frosty falls? And second, and this is the big one, how do you want to eat it? Are you a salad person, a smoothie fanatic, a soup lover? If you can answer these 2 questions, you're golden.
Okay, let's dig into that first big decision, your climate. Because with kale, when you plant it is just as critical as what you plant. Seriously, timing changes everything. I absolutely love this little piece of garden wisdom. Kale loves cold feet. It's not just some cutesy saying either, it's actual science. What happens is, when the plant gets hit by a frost, it starts converting its starches into sugars to act like a natural antifreeze. And the result? The leaves get noticeably sweeter and way more tender. It's amazing. And this chart here just lays it all out perfectly. If you're planting in the spring, you need something that's bolt-resistant, like a Lacinato or a Winterbor, so it won't go to seed as soon as the weather warms up. But for fall, that's when you want the cold hardy champions, like Curly and Siberian, because they actually get better after a frost. Let's just focus on these fall superstars for a second. Siberian kale is an absolute beast. It can literally be harvested from under the snow. Curly kale, like we just said, gets that amazing frost-sweetened flavor. And then hybrids like Winterbor are bred specifically for that rugged, cold weather toughness. These are your workhorses for stretching that harvest way into the cold months. Okay, climate, check. Now for that second key question, the one that connects what's happening in your garden directly to your dinner plate. The goal here is simple. Grow what you will actually be excited to eat. And this right here is your ultimate kitchen cheat sheet. The logic is so simple and smart. Start with the meal you want to make and let that guide you to the perfect kale for the job. This is what growing with intention is all about. So let's see how this plays out. You want tender leaves for a fresh salad? Red Russian is your guy, no question. Making a hearty soup or stew? You want something that holds up, so go for Curly or Lacinato. For smoothies, you want something milder and softer, so Siberian or Winterbor are perfect. And for those perfectly crispy, crunchy kale chips, it has to be Lacinato. Its low moisture and firm leaves make it the undisputed champ. All right, time to put it all together. We're going to take the climate advice and the kitchen advice and merge them into a personalized plan based on where you actually live. This is your blueprint for kale success. Okay, just find your USDA hardiness zone on the chart. So, for example, if you're way up north in a cold zone like 3 to 5, you want to focus on Siberian and Curly, especially for the fall. But if you're down in a hot zone like 9 or 10, your whole strategy shifts.
It's pretty much all about fall planting with varieties that can handle a mild winter.
So why are we so obsessed with timing? It all comes down to one magic number, 75 degrees Fahrenheit. Kale is happiest when daytime temperatures stay under that. Once it gets hotter, the plant gets stressed, the leaves get bitter, and it tries to bolt, which means it gives up on making leaves and just tries to make seeds. That's why summer is kale's off-season.
And hey, to make sure your beautiful kale actually makes it to your kitchen, here are a few simple, organic ways to handle pests. For those little green cabbage worms, for example, just plant some dill or onions nearby. For aphids, nasturtiums make a great trap crop. It's all about creating a healthy little ecosystem that can mostly take care of itself.
You know, the whole philosophy behind this really comes down to this quote. It's not about cramming your garden with a million things you might not even use. It's about making thoughtful, intentional choices that lead to a harvest you'll actually love.
And that's the bottom line. The best kale isn't some fancy, rare variety you have to hunt for. It's the one that grows well for you, in your climate, and actually ends up on your dinner table. So just start small. Pick one variety to try this spring and one for the fall and see what happens.
So that leaves just one final question, and this one's for you. Now that you've got the blueprint, what will you grow? Are you going to go for that frost-sweetened curly for winter soups or that tender red Russian for amazing spring salads? The choice is yours.